if we go to last year's team, the player I want to ask about, because it's obviously been the hot topic the last few months, is Damonte. Because one thing I found very interesting is I can sort of understand why in his early years he got like the golden glue treatment where you keep coming up, you get your chance, and then people just keep saying like, nah, not now. And then you get kicked back down to academy, but you prove yourself, you come back up, you got a good work ethic, blah, blah, blah. But the thing that seemed to change, and particularly it looked like he really nailed it in your team, he was doing it in clutch as well, is it's almost like he became, and this is what I want to ask from a coaching perspective, it's almost like he must be on some level like very self-aware, or he must like be very reflective on his game, because normally the flaw of a player like that is they still keep thinking they're just going to be like the best player at their position, and then they sink or swim, right? He seems like someone who almost sort of learned how to offset his weaknesses, and I know as a result people, if they want to critique him, just talk about everything he isn't as a mid laner, but he can, if he has his champions and he's in the right team, he can certainly play the game. So what would you say?
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. He's very self-aware. He's straightforward about what he sucks at. And he just tries to attack that and do things differently. If he's really bad at playing like Azir or something in meta, he tries to find a way to at least beat it. I know like when we played TSM, that's why like Ziggs popped up. Like we weren't a big Azir playing team at all, but we had this random Ziggs pick. It's like, cool, this team probably hasn't practiced versus very much, and at least like we'll have practice on that. And he would just work around ways to do that. And then outside of that, like he was a good you need like a hype guy on the team sometimes. He was really good at providing that, being that kind of internal voice for the team. He wasn't the leader, like Kevin was more so the leader for our team, or Hunter. But he was the guy that would like hype us up and like try to get everyone like really energized in game. So everyone feels like, all right, cool, this game's won. Like I can do whatever I want. Like this guy's like kind of feeding me that energy, So he was pretty important piece to a team. He's just not necessarily going to be the guy who's like carrying the game for you on like scoreboard or anything, It's all intangible stuff usually.
The irony, if you hear when people critique, like the aforementioned PoE and Frog and the players who are famous for playing the mages, is the critique about them nearly always goes to they don't play like fucking like, I don't know, like Akali or like, some ridiculous shit. They don't play basically like leaders champion pool. They don't play all the super aggressive stuff, right? Even though that's a massive critique of those players, I have noticed you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because if you go on the other side of the equation and you don't play Orianna and Azir, basically people make out like you just can't have a job as like an LCS or an LEC mid laner. So what would you say to this? Because listen, some of those picks, like, it does just look like the way the game works. One of the two is always going to be viable, if not like one of the best champions in the game for mid lane. It's obviously it's somewhat on the rails, I would say. It's a bit straightforward as to how you play around a champion like that. Do you think actually to be a mid laner at this level, do you have to like be able to at least play the champions, or is it like you said, you have to have the counters to it? How do you explain it? Because it feels like people have made that mentally like a staple that you have to be a top mid laner now.
Yeah, I think if you want to be like a good player, like a good professional player, you need to be able to play both. Like it's just a really important part of it. Otherwise, eventually a meta is going to come around where your picks that you're playing all the time aren't necessarily going to feel that great. The fundamentals should all still carry over, Like it's not like laning changes completely, but you should feel comfortable like playing those champions on those like different matchups. You should understand at least how the matchup works. So if you need to pull it out, you can do it for what your comp needs. I think just being able to only do one isn't something that's really acceptable. I think it's like passable in like regional play. You can obviously get away with it and be fine, but once you go and you're playing against like the best players in the world, you usually will just get exposed and they'll just target your champion pool and kind of hold down the way your team needs to play and counter it.